Imagine your world suddenly, violently, just spinning out of control. For a lot of people, this isn't some bad dream. It's vertigo. So today, we're going to dive into a medication designed to help people find that solid ground again, betahistine.
Yeah, it's this deeply unsettling feeling, right? That sudden, just overwhelming sense of vertigo where it feels like your own body has betrayed you. Your sense of balance is just gone. If that sounds even a little bit familiar, then you're definitely in the right place.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the problem itself, Meniere's disease. Then we'll get into the solution, betahistine. We'll break down exactly how it works, how you actually use it, what to watch out for, and then we'll wrap it all up and put it into perspective. So first things first, to really understand why betahistine is such a big deal, we've got to get a handle on the condition it's designed to treat, a pretty challenging disorder called Meniere's disease.
Meniere's is this tough inner ear disorder that brings this really disruptive trio of symptoms. Now, the root cause is thought to be something called endolymphatic hydrops, which I know sounds complicated, but it's really just a technical way of saying that there's way too much fluid building up in your inner ear. And that creates a ton of pressure right where your body's balance control system lives, and it just throws everything completely off kilter.
Okay, so with all that internal chaos going on, how do you fight back? Well, for many people, the answer is a medication designed specifically to deal with this inner ear turmoil. So let's meet betahistine. Now, right off the bat, betahistine isn't a cure. What it is a really powerful tool for managing the condition. It's a synthetic compound, and it's designed to perfectly mimic a natural substance in our bodies, histamine, to help get those chaotic symptoms of Meniere's back under control. So you're probably wondering, how can a simple pill actually help restore something as complex as your body's sense of balance? Well, this is the really fascinating part. It all comes down to some very clever neurochemistry. So the most crucial thing to get here is that betahistine is basically a structural look-alike for histamine. See, histamine is the body's natural regulator for the fluid in your inner ear. Betahistine kind of steps in to do histamine's job, but it does it in a much more targeted and, frankly, amplified way. Okay, this is where it gets really, really clever. Think of your body as having a brake and an accelerator for the circulation in your inner ear. Betahistine pulls off this amazing two-step move. First, it finds the brakes. These are H3 receptors that are holding back histamine, and it blocks them. It basically cuts the brake line. With the brakes off, the body naturally releases more of its own histamine. Then, all that extra histamine goes and hits the accelerator, the H1 receptors, which ramps up blood flow. And the end goal of this whole dance? Better circulation, which helps reduce that nasty fluid pressure and finally eases those awful symptoms. All right, so that's the science. Pretty cool, right? But what does this actually mean for someone using it? Let's get into the nitty-gritty, the practical side of things. So here's the key info, all in one spot. Dosing is typically 3 times a day. It's really important to take it with food. That helps avoid any stomach irritation. And this is a big one. This is not a short-term fix. It's a long-term management strategy, and consistency is absolutely everything. And this might be the single most important thing to understand about betahistine. It works over time to prevent attacks from happening, or at least make them less severe when they do. It is not a rescue pill you take once a vertigo attack has already kicked in. Think of it as building a wall, not putting out a fire. Prevention is the name of the game here. Of course, with any medication, you've got to be aware of this safety profile. But the really good news with betahistine is that generally, it's very well tolerated by most people. Yeah, its safety profile is honestly one of its key strengths. The vast majority of reported side effects are pretty mild and tend to go away. Things like a bit of indigestion or maybe a headache. Serious reactions are very rare, which is what makes it such a reliable option for long-term use. However, there are a few conditions where you and your doctor need to be extra cautious. Because of its relationship with histamine, people with a history of asthma or peptic ulcers really need to discuss the risks. Also, its safety during pregnancy hasn't been fully established, so that's another super important conversation to have with your physician. And finally, there are a couple of clear do-not-use scenarios. First is a known allergy, obviously, and the second is a very rare type of tumor on the adrenal gland. It's also really worth noting that common antihistamines, like the kind you take for hay fever, could actually cancel out betahistamine's effects. So it is absolutely critical that your doctor knows about every single medication you're taking. Okay, so let's zoom out and put all this together. What is the ultimate role of betahistine in managing this really challenging condition?
Well, to put it simply, it's often a first-line preventative treatment. It's considered a cornerstone because it has this unique way of targeting the likely root of the problem, that fluid imbalance, and it helps the body restore its own natural equilibrium. It helps you find that state of internal balance, or what scientists call homeostasis.
So let's be crystal clear. It's not a cure, but it is a cornerstone. Betahistine doesn't eliminate Meniere's disease, but it helps you manage the chaos. It offers a way to quiet that storm inside the inner ear, giving people a real, tangible path back to a life lived on solid ground.